Hey, it's Soul, and you know what might be cool? Low-level Mythic Plus dungeons tailored for an audience who wants a little bit more challenge than what's out there right now. We're going to revisit an idea that I shared a little while back where I took low-level Mythic Keystone Dungeons and turned it into more or less kind of an expansion of Mythic Zeros with no timer penalties or depleting keys. Now, not a lot of folks were interested in that sort of idea. They even got kind of mad at the notion that casual players could have an easier time getting gear. Oh my god. Things are a little bit different now though, because since then we've had the announcement of the War Within expansion, which included a major change, a world content row from the Great Vault that could potentially award hero class gear. We've also had, during the announcement of patch 10.2.5, follower dungeons, where level 60 through 70, you can run normal dungeons and you can run with a smaller group, or even solo with NPC followers filling roles. It's hard to deny that with these announcements alone, the WoW team is trying to carve out new spaces for folks of different skill levels and preferences, and I'm a big fan of this direction. Think of it like this. Once upon a time, raiding was the only option for endgame PvE, while dungeons were just like a stepping stone artificially propped up with like currency and rep farms as reasons to run those every day, and that was pretty much it. The introduction of Mythic Plus gave smaller groups something to do, and it chipped away at the raiding population. People can now say, well, you know what, I think I'd rather do dungeons than raids for, all sorts of personal reasons and preferences. Delves, which is a new feature coming in the War Within expansion, is going to also pull in interested players, as well as maybe peel more players away from Mythic Plus and raids, for the same reasons that Mythic Plus took people off of raids. Meanwhile, the nature of follower dungeons are going to let players have their own kind of story mode or training simulator or, whatever they want to think of it. All in all, players are going to have the option to play how they want to. I'm just saying we've come a long way since the phrase raid or die. And that's my angle for taking low-level Mythic Plus and trying to make it a bit more accessible, a bit more welcoming for a certain set of players. And I'm talking about those who want a bit more challenge than what the dungeon or the raid finder has to offer, but still don't quite play at that serious of a level where they are interested in the pressures of a timer and the consequences of being beholden to something like that. My attention is drawn to low-level Mythic Keystones, levels 2 through 6, where the only affix right now is whether it's a tyrannical or a fortified week. So here's what I'm envisioning. Let's say that I'm okay at the game. I'm just skittish about getting into groups because I don't want to suck and I don't want to cause a key to fail. I just lack the confidence. Maybe I do Mythic Zeros, but I can only run them once a week, at least the way they are right now, and it's just not worth running so many of them for just, like one piece of veteran gear from the vault. So what if, with this idea, I happen to clear a Mythic Zero and get a low-level keystone just like I do now, only this time I can take this keystone for whatever dungeon and I put it on the pedestal and then be able to choose if I want to run a level 2, 3, 4, 5, or a level 6 key. I could choose the level for this dungeon. And then let's say I start the key at a 2, I clear it with my group pretty easily, I time it, I get a nice little congrats on the screen, and then the dungeon key changes to something else. And that's kind of it. My idea is that players can just keep running these sorts of keys at this level all they want. There is going to be a timer, but there's also no pressure. There's no requirement to beat it in order to raise that key from a 2 to a 3, or a 3 to a 4, or a 5 or a 6, because again, they could just choose their levels. The only restriction really is what dungeon that the key is assigned to provide, just a very minimal amount of friction between players, where you have to kind of choose the kind of players you want to play with, so because they might have a certain key. So what happens for people who want to move upwards and do higher keys? That's going to be pretty easy. You just need to start the key at a 6 and then time it, and it'll promote to a 7 or higher if you cleared it even faster. With a 7 key, cool, now you have the affix, and now now to keep progressing, now you need to time it just the way that you always have. So nothing really changes going forward, except for one thing. Regardless of how high of a key that you have, you could always choose to run a 2 through 6 of that particular dungeon without having to downgrade the key. Now, if for some reason you don't time that particular key at the 2 or 6 level, Once again, there's not going to be any penalty, but you won't be able to use this method to like just change your key to a different dungeon. It's still going to follow the current rules, where if you time a dungeon that's the same or higher level than your own, then you can re-roll your key with that NPC at the very end. Now, some folks might be very quick to be like, hey dude, hey, that's like giving free gear for the casuals. But is it really? Let's take a closer look. Running Mythic 2s award veteran class gear as drops. It's the same as Raid Finder. And you get Whelpling Crest to upgrade them to, so you can level them to 4 out of 8. And the following week, there's a piece of champion gear waiting in the vault. Now, what if these people were to run 6s? They're actually still going to get the same gear, just at different upgrade levels. So it's still veteran gear that you're going to get from finishing the dungeon. It's still going to be one piece of champion gear that you get from the vault. The difference is that they're going to get drakes as crests at the end of every 6th dungeon. That way they can fully upgrade that veteran gear and maybe put a little bit of love into their weekly champion gear. That's the system as it is right now. And what I'm proposing is that for these kinds of players who want to run at best 2s through 6s, just go ahead and let them farm. There isn't a lot of room for degenerate behavior thanks to the nature of the upgrade system with crest caps and limited sources. And while I don't have any data to speak of, at least from my viewpoint, people are zooming past low-level keys and reaching milestones like Keystone Hero faster than ever. As of this recording, by the way, we're only on the 3rd week of the season, and there's this fast-growing divide between the very career-minded players and those who don't really share that same dedication or skill. This is not an issue of who should get gear, but more like, should we give a bit more space for more players to play? It could be as easy as this. It could be as easy as setting up a new dungeon queue for Mythic Zeros, or even Mythic Zeros including 2s through 6s. So I say open up low-level Mythic Plus for people to just farm their face off once they're done with their weekly outdoor quests and Raid Finder, which again give the same kinds of gear. But even if this idea is just pure trash, I am interested to hear from you. Do you think that WoW is going in the right direction with giving more opportunities for players to play? Is low-level Mythic Plus the right space to put this focus on? And are delves in the War Within going to be enough? Let me know in a comment, like the video, subscribe for more coverage, catch me live, and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.